Get ready. Hold tight.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit old to you, but
With that deep into Danny Roll, please don't clip that.
been truly horrific having this season away from home.
I want goals.
It was nice to have football back, wasn't it?
How poor do we have to be before it's happened? How much blood from this stone does he have to get?
The Wednesday Week!
Hello and welcome to this week's Wednesday Week Matchday Preview Show, where we meet with representatives from our upcoming opponents. This Saturday, we are welcoming West Bromwich Albion to Hillsborough. Early league leaders, West Bromwich Albion, that is, and I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Johnny Drury from the Baggies broadcast in this week's I'll never get tired of that jingle. Johnny, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Oh, brilliant, mate! Absolutely loving that intro. That's far and above what our technical ability on the Baggies broadcast. So I'm very impressed by that.
Listen, I'd love to tell you that we're all dab hands at the technology here, but it's run by the bloke upstairs who's not here tonight. He spends we're whiles away the wee hours knocking together little graphics and so forth, and that's what we come out with. How you doing then, mate? You good?
Good, yeah, good. Fantastic start to the season, so couldn't get much better really from an Albion point of view.
Yeah, can you just talk us through that then, just to get us going? Did you obviously coming into the season? Did you expect to hit the ground running in the way that you have, or has it come as a little bit of a surprise to you?
No, I think anyone who foresaw what was going to happen was a liar, really, because we didn't see it going this well. We knew it was going to be a sort of a better campaign. Given the fact that we had new owners take over last year who've really got the best interests of the club at heart. There was always going to be some sort of FFP issues this summer, sort of moving a lot of players out, and there was a massive turnover of players. We brought in a couple of good foreign players, on sort of low money and sort of worked the loan market well. So I think everyone was expecting a playoff push again, but to be top after 6 games and have won 5 of them was pretty much beyond anyone's expectation so far.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You've kind of done it quite quietly, haven't you? Because everybody looks at the teams that come down. Everybody looks at the teams that didn't necessarily. I know you were there in the playoffs, but people tend to be looking at your leads maybe. You've gone about your business in quite an unassuming way to the outsider, if you like. That probably wasn't looking at West Brom as being the force that you were. What's been so different this season, do you think? You've mentioned the turnover of players. Has there been a change in mentality in terms of your philosophy under Corberan?
I don't think so. I think he's tried to implement it, certainly last season. The first season he came in, we were bottom when he came in. So it was sort of shoring up the defence. And then slowly last season, it was this sort of passing style of play and trying to play more attractive football. And I think this season, it's just all sort of culminated. And now he's been able to bring in a decent amount of his own players. We hadn't spent a transfer fee for 2 and a bit seasons before this season, and I think he's had a lot more time now to really implement what he wants. Still a core of players that were there prior to this summer, but he's added really well. We sprinkled a little bit of dust at the end of the window by going and spending £3 million on Mikey Johnston, who was our sort of star loan man last season, and it's kind of all come together really. And like you say there, we were under the radar. I do think this year the Championship was not as strong, so I think that's sort of maybe playing into Albion's hands a little bit in terms of the teams coming down or having to sell and cut their cloth, and maybe the teams that are coming up aren't as they're not like Ipswich who are going to come and blitz the league. So yeah, I think it's all only 6 games in, can't get too far out of ourselves, but yeah, things are looking pretty rosy at the Hawthorns at the moment.
Yeah, so for the uneducated sort of West Brom aficionados amongst us Wednesdayites, if you like, can you give us a sort of a brief overview, a snapshot of the change in the squad? Obviously, you were up at Hillsborough at the back end of last season, and we will talk about that game as being probably the performance of the season last year when we won 3-0. We weren't expecting that. We needed to win. Is the side that you've got, the squad, different, significantly different to that?
Slightly. We were actually talking about that game on our podcast today with very, brought back nightmares really from Hillsborough last season. It was a bit of a shock. But no, not really. The goalkeeper's the same. The back four, Darnell Furlong, Carl Bartley, Shemi Ajayi, all people that have been at Albion for a long time. We've got a new Norwegian left back, Corberan Hegem, who's come in. He's a centre half, but he's playing left back, doing really well. And a lot, like we say, a lot of the sides. We've got Jason Malumbi, Alex Moa, seasoned championship players who are just really excelling this season. Tom Fellows is our sort of star academy winger who's now playing for the under-21s for England. Carlin Grant, someone who was at Cardiff last year, not doing great things, out on loan. He's come back in. John Swift, another player who's been there. And we had Josh Madger last season, who had sort of at one stage been playing in the Premier League for Fulham. Last year had 2 really bad, unlucky injuries. And he's just come back in and he's a completely new player. The one difference is that we've got a lot of depth. We've got players coming off the bench. We signed Lewis Dobbin from Aston Villa, who Aston Villa paid sort of £8 million in the summer for. With Mikey Johnston, as we just mentioned. We've just got quality. Jed Wallace, who can't get in the team at the moment, the club captain, who's sort of been wingers in the league for the last 5 years. We've just got a lot of strength in depth. And that's probably the main difference, really. The side, it may well change on Saturday at Sheffield Wednesday, because they played, apart from Saturday, they played 5 consecutive lineups before Saturday. But it's just
I was just going to ask on that, because you do your little bit of research, and who were the players that they've got in? Because I've noticed, and I'll mention a couple. Devante Cole, I didn't realise was there. You've also got one of our ex-goalkeepers, Joe Wildsmith, and you managed to get Mason Holgate in. And now Holgate, there were snippings on deadline day that Holgate was potentially being looked at by us. They've not got anywhere near it at the moment.
No,
they've not got anywhere near it at the moment, have they?
No, Devante Cole's someone who's come in. I think it was a case of he was a sort of a free agent. Albion needed to bring someone in as a striker. He's done very well at League One. He can't get in the squad. I signed Callum Stiles from Barnsley as well. Has been one of Barnsley's best players for the last few years. He's not been in the matchday squad. And Mason Holgate's a funny one. We had him on loan a few years ago. Real sort of fan favourite from a few years at Albion. But we did. We signed Mikey Johnston on deadline day, and that was supposed to be it, really. And I read the Holgate stuff to Sheffield Wednesday, but I think it come out of the blue, really. I think he really liked his time at Albion last time he was there and came back in. So he's another one. And we've signed some good foreign players. We've signed a sort of 6'10" central midfielder called Uros Racic from a Serie B club. He made his debut last week. He's huge. He might not be that big, but he looks it. He's massive, but he's a real. He's not just. He's your typical big man with good feet. He's a terrific midfielder. He made his debut on Saturday, and there's just a lot of it's the same side, but it's just the depth. If things aren't going well, then Carlos Corberan can make 4 or 5 changes and he can bring on quality players. Whereas last year, you maybe had one who could come off the bench and maybe try and change the game, but apart from that, that's where we kind of come unstuck, really, and that's ultimately why we probably failed to get promoted.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because as you pointed out earlier on, you don't change your side very often. The starting 11, I think, in 5 out of 6 games has been the same, hasn't it? But you do blood from the bench, or you do sort of freshen things up on the bench quite regularly.
Yeah, that's the massive thing. It makes the difference. And I suppose the sides that are at the top of the league are the sides that the sides that go up are generally the sides that can do that. And hopefully that's a good theme for us this season. Yeah,
absolutely. So Corberan's the manager. He's been in there for a couple of years. Obviously, he's going to be in good favour at the moment because he's top of the league. But what's the journey underneath him been like? Is he held in good regard by West Brom fans? Do people think highly of him?
Yeah, they do. At one period of time, there was a smattering of fans who sort of were a bit sort of irate about him, purely because there was a time when performances weren't fantastic. But when he came in, he solidified us, put his stamp on things. He's a disciple of Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds. He was his number 2. So he very much plays like the Bielsa sides did at Leeds. And he can't be held in high enough regard. He was here for maybe 3 months and he got a new contract at the club. And he's just the stamp he's put on Albion. They've got, I hate the cliches, but they've got an identity now. People know how they're going to play. They're playing some really good stuff. And he's just galvanised the club. He took over when we were in a pretty sticky financial situation and had to navigate through that. in the first couple of years, but now it's sort of all come together. We've got good owners, we've got a good sporting director. You know, they're putting money into the football club, and I think he's sort of bought into the project they've got going on there. The problem is now trying to keep hold of him. He's been linked already with other jobs, but you know, that's what happens when you're top of the league, I suppose.
Listen, that's what happens when you're bottom of the league and you've got a progressive manager that people are sniffing around. I can tell you one of the best things that we did was keep hold of ours, so I can absolutely relate to that. In terms of the sort of philosophy then, so if I'm a Wednesday night listening to this, I don't know much about West Brom, what can we expect to see on the pitch sort of playing wise? I know you've referenced Bielsa. What's the formation like? How do you play? What's the tempo? Just talk us through what we can expect.
Yeah, play a 4-2-3-1. It's his stock formation. He's always played it. Don't really play with a number 10 now, though. John Swift plays as a number 10, and he kind of drops very, very deep to get the ball. And one of the midfield sitters kind of runs forward. It was Jason Malumbi, but he looks like he's probably going to be out for Saturday. Like to play from the back, which at times they can play him into trouble. The centre-halves, you know, when they're on it, but when they're sort of not. Plymouth on Saturday, they gifted Plymouth 2 or 3 chances. So they can be susceptible at the back, but they like to get it down. They like to play wide early. You know, we've got Darnell Furlong, who's a flying fullback, who's at the moment probably one of the best in the division. We've got Tom Fellows on the right-hand side, who I've yet to see a fullback who can stop him getting past him and getting crosses in. And that's kind of how they've played this season. They kind of don't really play down the middle of the pitch. They kind of play out wide, get crosses in the box, and because we've got a striker in Josh Madger at the moment who's pretty goal hungry. He's got 6 and 6. It's kind of working really, but it's get it down. When they have to go long, they will go long. You know, and that I think as well. One good thing they've got at the moment is they can, despite the fact that they play good stuff, they can withstand quite a lot of pressure. They defend their box really, really well. They've got 2 massive centre halves. You know, a centre half playing left back and Darnell Phil on the right back is brilliant in the air. So they're pretty solid at the back. I think they haven't conceded a goal at home yet. I think it's 4 clean sheets in the first 6 games. Solid at the back, and they like to play and you know, they're scoring goals at the moment as well. So pretty perfect on all fronts, really.
Yeah, I've got a quick Madger story. It's a bit sort of self-promotion. I've joined the EFL fantasy team, or the fantasy league this year. I'm currently 10th in the entire standing. I'm top of the Sheffield Wednesday one. God knows how I've done it, but the one thing that I do is I always look out for Madger. Madger gets in every week and he scores me points like you wouldn't believe. So I'm hoping we can put a bit of a block on him this weekend. Would you say that Fellows is, you know, your new go-to guy then? I'm reading up a little bit. He seems to be the one, or is there anybody else that stands out?
Yeah, he's the one. He's the one. I think he's got. I imagine 6 goals. He's maybe assisted 4 of them. He's very direct. He's like a winger from years gone past. He gets chalk on his boots. He's so direct. You see so many wingers these days who, despite having pace, get the ball cut inside. You know, play it back. He's both-footed. You know, for the first 6 months of him playing for Albion, I couldn't work out if he was right-footed or left-footed. He was that good going either way. And he's got, it's like a drag or like they call it like the fellow step over among the Albion fans now, where he kind of drops 2 step overs, and I haven't seen a single fullback stop him yet. And it looks like he's doing it in slow motion, but he gets past his fullback and he's got so much time to deliver the ball, and his delivery is fantastic. You know, Albion had to turn down, I think it was about a £12 million bid from Southampton on deadline day for him. And I know Albion value him at close to £20 million, and that's for a player who's only really played about 40 games in the Championship. So he's dangerous. You know, if you stop Fellows, you stop a lot of Albion's ammunition. But on the other side, we've got Colin Grant, who's playing very well, and he's keeping Mikey Johnson out of the team, who was our best player towards the end of last season when we got him on loan from Celtic. And they're the 2 main ones. It wouldn't surprise me if Johnston came in on Saturday as well and he mixed it up. But Fellows is, if you stop Tom Fellows, you've got a very good chance of stopping Albion.
It's interesting to listen to you talk. Everything you say about the formation, the 4-2-3-1. We play 4-2-3-1. You talk about the tempo, the style of play, the philosophy is very, very similar to the way that we sort of set up. The one stark difference is you're sitting top of the league. You've scored 10, I think it is, and only conceded 2. And where the other end, we've conceded 12 goals, and we're sort of swinging around in the relegation zone again at the moment. It is early days, as we've talked about, and I'd like to think that we, I'm not going to say meet in the middle, but our fortunes will turn at some point so that we can start to replicate the results, if not the performances that you guys have had. I've prepared for our YouTube watchers and viewers. I've prepared a little bit of a graphic of your sort of first 5-6 games. Where were your standout performances in this then?
I think the first day of the season took everyone by surprise. West Bromwich Albion fans, I've been a fan my whole life, and we're notoriously pessimistic. So we sort of had a real turnover of players. We still had to bring in 3 or 4 players after the first game of the season. So we had we didn't have the depth that we had then. Went to QPR. QPR. I see QPR as quite similar to Sheffield Wednesday in terms of a really progressive foreign manager, liked to play football. And they were a good side when we played them last season, but we went down there and blew them away. Stoke away was another really good one. Leeds at home as well. Leeds had to come to Albion and park the bus to stop us scoring, really. But the standout one, we went down to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth had chances in the game, but we were just clinical. We took the lead after something like 54 seconds, and it was just a proper away performance where we've sort of kept the back door shut, and we've been class on the break. But we've had to do it different ways. Saturday against Plymouth, I know a lot of people look at Sheffield Wednesday's position and see him in a false position, but from seeing Plymouth on Saturday, I very much think the same, because Plymouth are the best side we played this season. In terms of
really?
There are a lot of chances in the game. We did give them a lot, but on another day, we did it at the post 3 times from distance, but I thought they played some really good stuff, and they kept us on our toes right to the very end. And we had to kind of grind out a result. It wasn't, vintage Albion that we've seen under Corberan. So I think that's just another good sign for Albion this season, is that they can win a number of different ways, and they've had to already this season. That's
really interesting, because I
know you popped them off the park on the first game of the season.
We played Wayne Rooney's Plymouth on Sky, first game of the season, and that Sunday at 6:00 we were winning the league. We were absolutely winning the league, and then we come back down to earth with a real bang. From our point of view, Leeds, you'd hold your hands up. They were much the better side than us. We went up to Sunderland on TV again, and although we started well, we fell off a cliff, and we were 3-0 down by half time, and it was all our own doing. Silly mistakes, things that we'd done wrong, and we I still think that at that point we're still in recovery from those 2 games, if you like. The Sunderland game was poor, the Leeds game wasn't great, and then we've got battered by Millwall, where we've just not turned up. The last 2 games we've started to see some sort of shoots of something like QPR drawing 1-1. We were the better side. They equalised with a rugby league style sort of scrummage in the area on the 94th, 95th minute. Something I've never ever even seen. They literally had a player sat on our goalkeeper when they tapped it in. And then we've ended up going to Luton on Saturday, and even though we were the better side against Luton, gone 1-0 up with a wonder strike from Banner, ended up losing our talismanic centre-half, if you like, who obviously won't be involved on Saturday, through a handball that wasn't necessarily a handball, and then they scored the winner with a handball that was a handball that set up their winning goal. So things aren't in our favour at the moment, and we're trying to stop the rot, and we're hoping that we continue in that sort of upward trajectory to get to a point where we're not necessarily floundering at the bottom of the league again. In terms of you guys, though, do you think you can sustain this? Do you think it's something that you'll keep doing? Do you see yourself at the top of the league for the season, or is this just a temporary thing where you're a team that's gone on a run and you've gone on a run early, that you're gonna hit that dip?
I think you'll always hit a dip. I think it's very hard to sustain it. I know you had like Ipswich and Leicester who sort of blew the league away last season, but I think there's a very real possibility, purely because it's not just 11 players playing out of their skin with no one else to come in. Like we mentioned earlier, the depth is there. Our last record signing, Daryl DK, has been out for a 3rd time. He's due to come back in a month or 2's time, or a couple of months' time. And when he comes back, that's even more depth. When he did get fit in the Championship, he was an absolute beast for defences to deal with. So I just think I think the fact that Corberan's done it before in terms of led Huddersfield right to the brink of promotion. I know they almost got automatic promotion and that set off the playoffs. And he's done it with us last season. It just feels like that one step further. And like I said, I don't think the Championship is as strong as it has been. I think the sides that have gone up were strong. I think Leeds have come down and they're nowhere near the Leeds that we saw last time in the Championship. I think Luton they've still got a good squad and a core of players that were there last season, but I don't see them blowing anyone away. And I think the sides that have sort of come up are not maybe as strong as sides in previous years. So I think if they get to the next international break and they're still top of the league, then even though that's only 3 games away, I think there's a very real chance that they're going to be up there at the end of the season.
Reasons to be optimistic then. Yeah. Looking at you've sort of referenced the league there, and you mentioned certain teams that have come down and not necessarily being as strong. If you could give me 2, maybe 3 teams that you think are going to be up there and in and around it, by all means, I'm not asking you to mention Sheffield Wednesday because that would be the wrong thing to do on tonight's show based on current form and sort of league position. Who do you see as being the main contenders in the Championship this year?
I think Sunderland are going to be up there, and I know that's an easy answer because they're second in the table, but I just think they've got some real quality young players who've been there since Tony Mowbray was there, and I think they're similar to a side like yourselves in terms of, or a club like yourselves where they've got a massive fan base, they're a massive club, and I think it might just all be coming together for them up there. Another one for me is Blackburn. I think Blackburn are going to go under the radar. I think John Eustace is a terrific manager. He did really, really well at Birmingham City. Wrongly got the sack for Wayne Rooney to come in. They'd be the 2 for me, really. I really think they're ones that could go under the radar. I think Burnley will be up there purely because they got a really strong squad. I think Scott Parker knows the division and he's done really well before. And hopefully West Brom as well.
Yeah, it's breaking my heart listening to you list these teams because the back end of the season when we needed to get out of the ship, we beat you, we beat Blackburn, we beat Sunderland. We were going to be the next big things, and now look at us and look where
I think there's a potential for Sheffield Wednesday, though. Like we said, the league table, where Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, 3rd bottom. It's not a great run. Is it sort of 1 win all season? But I think you look at the squad, and when we come up there last year, we were awfully bad. But I think it was 6 of one and half a dozen of the other that Sheffield Wednesday were really good that day, and they've got players in there. I know Barry Bannon, a lot of people say his age, but for me, he's still a very, very good footballer. Josh Windass is someone who was loosely linked with us in the summer. I think he signed a new deal, at Wednesday. Yeah. Really good championship player. Michael Smith's done it at the level. They've got players in there. The manager's a real, like you said, a really progressive manager. And I think for clubs like that, even if you're down there in a couple of months' time, you've seen what Nottingham Forest did a few years ago. Teams like Middlesbrough have done in recent years, Coventry, where they're struggling down the bottom. Even ourselves, we were bottom in November of the year that Corberan took over, and we were almost in the playoffs on the last day of the season. But yeah, from our point of view, I think that's why I think Saturday's not going to be an easy game, because I think you play good stuff and you look at your results, they've all been pretty tight results, to be honest.
Yeah, we're going to come to that. Before we get into score predictions, I'm just going to trouble you for one more sort of talking point, if you like. Wednesday memories. You spoke off air about having a little bit of a fondness for the club, and do you have any sort of fond memories of coming up to Hillsborough? Obviously not back in the last season, but your relationship with us.
Not last season. It probably stems out of the fact that Darren Moore was my hero growing up, and he was superb for his manager. Memories, a bit 3 times, or twice. My first time I was there, the company we worked for, the newspaper, we also own a newspaper in Shropshire. So I came up there with Shrewsbury Town a couple of years ago, or 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
It was 1-0 to Wednesday, but just going there and seeing the ground and the atmosphere for a League One game, when it was something like, I'm not sure what your capacity is, 30 plus thousand, 35,000. And just Darren Moore was the manager that day and sort of leading the Hi-Ho's Sheffield Wednesday chant on the sideline. I'm just like, this is different level. Wednesday fans won't forgive me for saying this, but the two best atmospheres I've been to at games are the two clubs in Steel City. They're fantastic. And the support up there is absolutely superb. You know, Wednesday's obviously my favourite place to go, rather than the other side of the city. But yeah, just going up there. In terms of memories from watching games, you know, I wasn't at the game, I watched it on TV, but Albion came up there. It would have been when Darren Moore was manager of West Brom, actually, and Harvey Barnes scored probably one of the best goals I've ever seen in my life, where he danced around about 7 Sheffield Wednesday defenders to score. So that's my best memory of an Albion game up there. But yeah, and then even last year, I know you were going for promotion, for survival, and we sort of capitulated. But the atmosphere is it's electric, it's rocking, and it must be unbelievable to play in front of. And yeah, like I said before, I think that's one of the pluses you've got. It's an old cliche, and it's a tough place to go, but when you're playing in front of a raucous crowd like that, it is a tough place to go.
It's one of those things, and I think just sort of talking around the points that we've made tonight, you know, we're not in great form, and we need a sort of a jab in the arm, if you like, a shot in the arm to get to the point where we can kickstart our season. I am the more sort of pragmatic member of our podcast. I sort of err on the side of caution when it comes to our predictions. I can actually see it, and I can see us getting something out of the game on Saturday. I genuinely can, and I know you're on a fantastic run, and fair play to you. But I think that we're just starting to move in the right direction again now, and I'd like to think that if there's a clash of styles to be had with the fans behind us as they are, if we can hit the ground running early on Saturday and you know, maybe get an early goal, I think it's going to be a long afternoon for West Brom. I genuinely do. What are your thoughts on score prediction?
I think you're right in terms of, I think if you offer me a point today, you know, if you said a draw, it was going to be a draw, I'd say that's not a bad result, really. However, being in the form that Albion are in, I can't look past an Albion win at the moment. I think they've got enough going forward, and they can keep it tight at the back. I do think it'll be tough, but I think it'll be tight, maybe a 2-1. I think both sides will score, but maybe 2-1. Hesitate to say 3-2 because that's an absolute thriller, isn't it? 3-2, but yeah, 2-1, maybe 2-1 Albion, just because they I think they've got enough to. Well, they should have enough. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game because, like you say, Sheffield Wednesday play good stuff, and you know, like we said, it's not an easy place to go.
Yeah, I'm going to go head and heart. My heart says we're going to win. My heart says we're going to win 2-1. We're going to stop the rot. My head says, realistically, you guys are in a fantastic run of form, and a point is not a bad result on Saturday. It's an early kickoff as well, isn't it? So we get done and dusted nice and early. Hopefully, be in the pub for 3 o'clock celebrating a win for Sheffield Wednesday. Johnny, before we go, do you want to give your channels, your socials, yourself a little bit of a plug so we can, anybody that wants to check out what you're doing at West Brom?
Yeah, no worries at all. We're the Baggies Broadcast. We're a newspaper, but it's the podcast that we run. Our West Brom one's called the Baggies Broadcast. We're on Twitter at Albion Poddy. You can find us on SoundCloud, Apple, and Spotify. Perfect, mate. And for all the Wednesdayites that tune in on a regular basis, here's your weekly reminder that we are TWW Cast on X. We're also on all of the social medias. As you can see, the listed below: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Threads, and what's the other one I'm missing? It'll come to me. And if you're not aware, this is the week that this goes out. We are currently in the final of our Football Content Awards. We've been shortlisted. We promoted it on our podcast last night. Anybody listening to this, and I'm going to give a quick beg to any West Brom fans that are listening as well. If you can click the links that we will share on our socials, when you find this, we'll get them in the description. Please take 30 seconds to give the Wednesday Week a like. A bit self-promotion there. We would love to win an award for this irreverent nonsense that we do on a weekly basis. My name is Stevie Spence. I am not Dan Fudge, but I will see you later.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday Week, bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday Week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday Week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast